Good Stories with Oldie Books, and I am here with my March mid-month wrap-up. I'm in the middle of another great reading month, so let's just dive right in. First up, I have The Black Stallion's Courage by Walter Farley, a much beloved book from my childhood. I decided I needed to grab a new copy. I don't know where my one from my childhood went, but I needed to read it again once I found out we were doing middle grades March on BookTube. So yes, I love this book. This is the one I used to reenact, the horse race. It's a race between three epic greats of this generation and all time. And yeah, I used to reenact this horse race between my house and my brother's house growing up on a little country road, dirt road. And of course I was always the Black Stallion, who, spoiler alert, but it's in the title, he's the winner. So yeah, I teared up, guys. I loved it. Anyway, next up we have Ali Smith, Winter. If you watch my vlog, my recent vlog, you know how I feel about this. And I said that I would clean up my language when I spoke about it on my wrap-up. Not that, you know, I had a potty mouth about it or anything, but yeah. What shall we say? Ali Smith is brilliant. How to Be Both was just a stunning read for me last year. Autumn was great, and when I finished Autumn, I was so excited to wait for Winter because I just wanted more of the story. And then I found out that it wasn't a continuation of the same story. It was just 4 separate stories but interrelated. And somebody told me that, you know, you can't have a continuation of Autumn because that old man was 100. I mean, but he woke up, so yeah, I would have rather had more of the little old man. This is, it's about Brexit, I guess. But it's essentially a guy who has had an extremely unpleasant breakup with his girlfriend, whom his mother has not met, and she's supposed to meet over the Christmas holidays, but that's not going to happen, and he is afraid to tell his mom, so he hires this girl he finds on the street to pretend to be his girlfriend, and she's charming. She was my favorite character in the story. I did like her a great deal, but the mom's having this visions of a disembodied floating head, and apparently the nut doesn't fall far from the tree because her son is having floating continents over his head, and it's just so disjointed, and it's the very definition of esoteric. And Allie has this thing where, you know, she likes making lists, and you know, I liked that in her other works, but some people have a problem with it, and she even goes too far in this one, and I just, it's old. So anyway, so next up we got Mary Stewart, The Moon Spinners. And this is another great Mary Stewart. I think this is my 3rd Mary Stewart, and it's my favorite thus far. This one is set in Crete. And Mary Stewart is just such a good travel writer and nature writer and cozy mystery writer, and just the tiniest touch of romance. It's not even real romance, it's just potential romance, which is just perfect. She is good, good, good. Isle of Crete. Good, good. And then we have Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This is longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction, and I love it. Absolutely. this is not what I was expecting. I was expecting a quirky romance a la The Rosie Project. And while there are some parallels with the main character, it is not a quirky romance. This is, I think the author does a really great job of working. She walks a very fine line between showing us that we really need community in our lives and how important community is, but also showing us that we have to save ourselves. So Eleanor Oliphant was the most unique character. I absolutely adored her. Some of her one-liners, she obviously doesn't realize she's as funny as she is, at least in the majority of the book, but I just like fell out of my chair laughing. And I really like dry humor, and some of her quirks I could totally relate to. So yeah, I just related to this book. I thought it was stellar and I loved it. Another book I loved, The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale. These are folk-inspired Russian fairy tale-esque stories, and the first one was, you know, delightful and very atmospheric. They're very wintry. But this one I thought just took it a step above. I love this one even more than the original. I just felt like the fairy tale elements and the storyline she added just went so much bigger, and which that epic grand scale is something I really love to read in fantasy fiction. So I don't want to say too much, but loved it. And I love books, guys. The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is my favorite kind of nonfiction. So what can I say about my favorite kinds of nonfiction? This is very narrative nonfiction, and it's one of those where the author has researched every little aspect of the story that she can think of. So this is about the HeLa cells, which are used all over the world for research, and they've helped find the cure for polio and some cancers, all sorts of things. And we find out that they were taken from this woman, Henrietta Lacks, without her knowledge or her family's knowledge. And so you think about the ethical aspects of that. You look at it from a historical perspective and how medicine and patients' rights have changed over the years. This is fascinating, and it's so lively. She keeps switching up what she's talking about, and you never ever get bogged down or bored, and you learn so much, and it's just captivating. I loved this story. And the other thing I appreciated about it was she didn't push any one viewpoint. She just told you the story and let you think your own thoughts. So great book, great book. And then my new Victorian Love, Anthony Trollope. I read The Warden and then Barchester Towers. And I wanted to read these together because I'd heard a couple of people mention that The Warden was a 3-star read for them, and then the rest of the series were 4- and 5-star reads. There's 6 altogether. So I wanted to give Anthony a really solid chance by reading, you know, not just his first 3-star, but the second as well. Turns out The Warden, you know, hit me in my sweet spot. It was like a total 4 or 5-star for me. I mean, I don't star books really too much, but I really loved it. So this is looking at the church, and not from a religious perspective, but a political perspective. No separation of church and state in England. Church is part of the state in these novels. And you're coming from the perspective of a man, the warden, who Lord love him, he's a moderate centrist. And you've got his son-in-law who is a conservative, and the love interest of his daughter who is a progressive. So very relevant to the times we live in, which is what makes a great classic a classic. So yes, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And the second, which continues to follow the same cast of characters, but adds several more. So this is more typical of a Victorian read in that there are several storylines going, whereas this one is just kind of one centralized story, but loved them. Thoroughly looking forward to reading the rest of the series. And Steve from Steve Donahue is doing a read along with his other series, the Palliser Chronicles, which there's 6 of those as well. And those are dealing with straight up politics from what I understand. So yes, that's in April. So that's it. More great books on the way. Thanks for watching, and I will be back soon.